Alright, so now that we've taken a look at some footage and we've seen what this build is able to do, let's take a look at some of the gearing and skill gem choices that I've made and really figure out how this build works. So the crux of this build is these three items here: the Eye of Innocence, Gamahu's Sign, and Razor of the Seventh Sun. So I'll start with this one. Eye of Innocence, what it does is every time you ignite an enemy, you take 100 damage. Now, you have 75% fire resistance, so this is actually taking 25 damage, and the self-damage makes it so you're able to proc cast when damage taken setups. The other items here make it so that you heal back more than you're actually taking. So I've also got Allocase Charging Offensive on this, and this is really important, and this is actually kind of like a broken combination with Eye of Innocence. If we look at what that is, we've got 20% chance to gain an endurance charge when hit while channeling, and 20% chance to gain a frenzy charge when hit while channeling. So when we're cycloning around, that's considered channeling, and the crazy thing is that the self-ignite counts as getting hit. So every time I ignite something, I have a 20% chance of getting a endurance charge or a frenzy charge because I have a 100% chance to ignite. So I could see this being really broken and being used with like a discharge setup. But right now I'm just using it to always cap out my frenzy and endurance charges. And I've taken 2 extra endurance charges on the tree. So that's just really good physical damage mitigation. Alright, so I'm taking the damage, but how am I healing it? So Razor of the Seventh Sun, every time you ignite an enemy, you get 1% of your life back. So with 6,000 life or so, that's about 60 life on hit. And this one here, same thing, recover 29 life. We've got 60 plus 29. And then we've also got a Watcher's Eye that gives 27 life on hit while affected by Vitality, which is always because I have Vitality always going. So you add it all up, you got about like 110, 120-ish life on hit, and that greatly surpasses the damage that you're taking, so you're actually healing every time that you get an Ignite. And but you're still able to proc all those cast when damage taken setups. And then this build also focuses on a lot of life regeneration on the skill tree and through various passives, so you're able to actually heal quite a bit, like very, very fast. Your health bar will just fly up. Alright, so let's take a look at some of these major setups here. So our main setup is a Cyclone, cast when channeling, Combustion, Fire Pen, Immolate, and Purifying Flame setup. So Purifying Flame is really good because it's got solid physical damage that's converted into fire damage. But also it gives us Consecrated Ground, which is 4% life regeneration per second. And it makes it so we don't have to use a Consecrated Ground flask. It does good damage, but also it kind of hits twice. So it has an initial hit that hits like a small area, and then like a wider hit that hits targets that haven't been hit. But because you're hitting twice, it's kind of like staggering the ignites, and like you'll see like the your health bar just fly up when you're igniting things. Alright, and so that's our main setup. And then I've also got this Blade Vortex setup. So Blade Vortex, Unleash, Increased Duration, and Combustion. So the point of this setup is not necessarily damage, although the damage is pretty good on it, but to get a lot of ignites per second out quickly. So I can like click this and boom, I'm at 10 stacks right away. It lasts a decent amount of time so that I can like keep cycloning around. And every time I'm hitting something with the Cyclone, which has many hits per second. I'm hitting something with the Purifying Flame, which has many hits per second. And they're also getting hit with the Blade Vortex, which has many hits per second. So the number of ignites per second starts to like really amplify. And that brings us to our cast when damage taken setups. So the main, most important one is this one here. Cast when damage taken, Fire Pen, Armageddon Brand, and Firestorm. So the reason why we take Firestorm is because it has a high hit rate. So every time there's an impact, a fireball will come down and hit an enemy. It lasts for a number of seconds, and it can have multiple hits within the same spell cast. And that's also true of Armageddon Brand, multiple hits within the same spell cast. So this kind of starts creating like a feedback loop where you're igniting things, it's damaging you because you're igniting, and then you're casting out more spells which are damaging, and so on and so forth. And then our next cast when damage taken setup is cast when damage taken, volatile dead, immolate, and flame surge. Now flame surge can't actually ignite, but it actually does a fair amount of damage. And then volatile dead, the reason I have this in here is because we're using this Cinder Swallow Urn. What this does is every time you consume an ignited corpse, you get 1 charge back. And every single corpse is ignited because you ignite every single time you hit. So you're consuming these corpses, you're getting your Onslaught Flask back pretty quickly. And then also you've got the 3% life regen on this, and every time you kill an enemy with Ignite on it, you're getting life, mana, and energy shield back. And they take 10% increased damage. So this the Cinder Swallow Urn is absolutely insane for this build. It's so good. Yeah, and then so basically the rest of the items are all rare, and there's not really anything too interesting to talk about. For damage, you've just got the Doriani's Catalyst because it's got large amounts of elemental damage. In this one, I have like a Leaf Slam setup with Fortify and fast attacks. Pretty standard. This one, I've just got my Herald of Purity, Herald of Ash, and Vitality. That's just for damage, and the Vitality for the life gain on hit with the Watcher's Eye. And then for flasks, again, pretty standard. I've just got like a quartz, a quicksilver, a granite, and a life flask. And that's basically all that you really need to know for this build. Oh yeah, I guess the remaining rares are this ring, this belt, and these gloves. For the rares, you're basically just looking for life resistances to cap out chaos resistance, and a couple of accuracy rolls would be really good. So the reason why accuracy is kind of nice is then your cyclone hits are actually able to proc elemental overload. You're able to proc fortify when you're leap slamming, and you're also able to get more ignites per second because your cyclone's hitting. But the cyclone is actually not the largest part of the damage in this build, not by a long shot, so it's not a huge deal if you don't have perfect accuracy, but it's just a nice stat to have in there. Alright, so let's take a look at the skill tree really quickly and kind of show you like what's up. So for ascendancies, I first picked Gamhu's Flames Advance, which is just physical damage conversion. This is for the Blade Vortex, so that we're actually getting 100% conversion with Avatar of Fire. Hinakora Death's Fury is just for Life Leech. I think that's the one I picked up next. And you get the Covered in Ash, which is really good for CC, but also for damage. Ramako's Sun's Light, I think I picked up last. I think I went to Salio Cleansing Water next because of the fire resistance. It makes it easier to like cap out your gear early on, and because the life regen and physical damage mitigation is nice. And then Ramako's Sun's Light was the last one, with the chance to ignite and fire resistance. So for leveling, I basically started here. I came up. I actually leveled up earlier on as, I believe, Cleave. I just like my dual wield Cleave for a while, and then I had some totem action, and I think I just went full attack all the way up until here, maybe up even into here. And once I got the Castman channeling set up, that's when I switched over to spell, and I like allocated these spell points. And I rushed up here to Avatar of Fire so that I could get full fire conversion right away to make it easier to scale the damage. And then I headed over to Elemental Overload really quickly too. So here's the full tree. Basically, you're just picking up life regeneration, and fire damage, area damage, spiritual aid if you want. You don't have to take this wheel. You could get jewel slots instead. Coming over here for the massive life wheel is really good, as is coming down here to get more life. Definitely you're going to want to get the 2 endurance charges because they work really well with your charging offensive. So I think that's it. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. I went through that pretty quickly. But yeah, thanks for watching the video. And if you like what you saw, like and subscribe.